Like I said, I'm Sophia. I usually they pronouns. I'm a member of Socialist Alternative in Seattle, and I go to the University of Washington here. We're so happy to have everybody here and see everybody's faces from all over the country who are ready to organize on their campuses.
I'm Earl. I use he, they pronouns. I go to Bard College in New York State.
Expansion of ICE, endless foreign interventions, like Earl was saying, into Greenland, Venezuela, Iran, the rising cost of living. These all stem from a system that prioritizes profit and power over human well-being. As wealth concentrates at the top, billionaires benefit, but everyday people pay the price. We are dedicated to overthrowing capitalism and authoritarianism completely, not just like eking out a slightly more humane existence for ourselves under these systems and replacing it with a system that meets the needs of everyday people. Socialism is when workers and students own all that they create, and we democratically run the economy, our universities, and our communities, making decisions for the needs of the many, not the profits of the few. What can we do to fight back? We certainly can't rely on Democrats. Under Biden, the Democrats did not abolish ICE. They increased its budget and carried out the most deportations ever under a president, still more at this point in Biden's term than Trump currently has. In Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, the mayor, made headlines for telling ICE to get the fuck out, but he's also blamed protesters. But he's also blamed protesters, Mayor Frey, for being violent and provoking ICE agents after the shooting of Venezuelan immigrant Julio Cesar Socialist. Tim Walz has been trying to appease Trump by calling off the protests and engaging in weak respectability politics, but that hasn't stopped the Justice Department from investigating both him and Jacob Frey. He doesn't want Trump inserting his control into Minnesota, and so Tim Walz is trying to appease and patronize the protesters, threatening to do Trump's dirty work and saying, hey, I'll call the National Guard. You don't have to do it. I'll keep my citizens in line. Thank you very much. And so he'll do it again like he did in 2020. Governor Walz is the same guy who called the National Guard on Justice for George Floyd protesters. It's not a question of whether Trump will try to send ICE or border control or Homeland Security into every American city, but when. And we have to be prepared. Until we make it impossible for ICE to operate in our cities, until we shut things down and go on the offensive, they will continue to kick their way into our schools, hospitals, and communities. That's why we need to rise up and build working people's power. We need to be organized. We need to fight alongside working class people and students. We deserve a new political system that represents the needs of the people and allows us to take power for ourselves.
Right now, unions of workers in the United States have called for mass strikes in May Day 2028 to put pressure on billionaires and fascists. But before then, we need to build as much power as possible and recruit as many people as possible. January 23rd represents an opportunity to show solidarity with Minneapolis and St. Paul and the Minnesota struggle, while showing us who is really organized and how many more people we need to win. The general strike in 2028 will not happen out of thin air or just because we say so. No matter how many times we see a quote-unquote general strike or economic blackout posts in our social media pages, the only way to get the scale we need for a powerful May Day strike is by taking action right now and organizing our communities. The road to May Day has already begun. Organizers in the Twin Cities have been leading the charge in building real people power. They're sparking momentum across the nation because of their courage in organizing. Sunrise Movement Twin Cities has been leading wide awakes against agents that have been working. Wide awakes are when folks find the hotels where these ICE agents are staying at and make lots of noise just to agitate them and let them know that you're not going to get sleep for terrorizing communities. You're not going to get sleep for murdering our friends and family members. We're not going to let you have it. 2 hotels in the Twin Cities have now kicked out ICE agents because of our actions. Hilton is our major target in this wide awake action, and Sunrises is now offering on-the-ground coaching for student organizers that are fired up and ready to take action in the Twin Cities. Unions in Minnesota have called for the first citywide strike in 80 years in this country. And it is our job as allies, supporters, and members of this nationwide movement to stand in solidarity and follow their example. This Friday, we are asking students to organize walkouts across the country. These actions will help us jumpstart our movement to fight capitalism. When students go first, their courage breaks the fever of fear. Throughout history, students have been the key sector to turn the tide against authoritarianism across the world. When we, students, act first, the rest of civil society then follows. Students can bring the courage, the moral clarity, and action that inspires the other older generations to follow.
The last time an entire US city went on strike for a day was in 1946 in Oakland, but that's about to change. It's really, really exciting. The 23rd will be the largest escalation in anti-Trump struggle since he's been elected. Our members, both in Socialist Alternative and in Sunrise, have been playing a big role in building this on the ground. It's massive because it will be the first time that the working class will strike against Trump. And only the united power of the working class can truly stop Trump, ICE, and the capitalist system responsible for terrorizing our communities. We, students and teachers, and our students and workers, need to take power for ourselves, not rely on politicians to exercise their power on behalf of us. When workers go on strike, not a dime of profit is made for the billionaire class. Schools shut down, buses don't run, and nothing gets made or sold. 17 Fortune 500 companies have their headquarters in the Twin Cities. So when workers there go on strike, those billionaires will be forced to listen to us. In order to win our demands, we need to be organized across the country. When we mobilize the united power of students in the working class, we keep our movement safe from co-optation and repression. The best way we, as student and workers, can build for this is to go back and organize walkouts, rallies, and strikes on the 23rd at all of our campuses. This struggle should be organized and fought with working class and student solidarity. We need a new working class party that can politically direct the organic energy bubbling over the surface right now. A workers' party would not just run candidates, but crucially is active and on the side of the protests and is democratically accountable to its working class and student membership. For instance, they would only take the average wage of their constituents, and they'd be subject to immediate recall. We need to bring in workers and students to call for ICE off of our campuses and out of our cities and shut down business as usual, because that's the only thing that Trump, the billionaires, millionaire university presidents, the boards they are beholden to, and corporate politicians listen to.
I'm Zeke. I go to the University of Washington in Seattle, and I'm a member of Socialist Alternative. And something that we've been thinking a lot about, because we're planning to have a walkout on Friday, is how do we get demands that really reach people? Because, this is a scary time. Last kind of late winter, spring, Socialist Alternative worked together with the teachers in Milwaukee, because there was a teacher there, Alondra Garcia, who was suspended just because of spreading information to her students who were at risk from ICE. And so we're able to fight that with a rally and a petition. And so I think that really thinking about what are going to be the demands that that students care about and draw them into struggle, and how can we expand this struggle to the workers on our campuses, because I think workers and students together is really where we have the most power. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm also at Turbine High School, and I'm pretty new to this whole walking out thing. I don't understand much about it, really. What purpose, if you don't mind me, I mean this not to come off, what purpose does this really serve? I mean, really, we're just walking out. It's not going to do anything, really. I mean this in the kindest way possible. What's the purpose?
Yeah, I think there's a question probably on a lot of people's minds, especially where maybe ICE hasn't come to your city. Maybe you're in a more rural place where there hasn't, been a lot of prior walkouts or anything like that. And I think it's important to take this as an opportunity to get organized now. I'm a member of Socialist Alternative here in Boston, and we've had a lot of people had ICE come into their city, and there's been these major escalations in terms of students walking out, or unions, like we see in Minneapolis, unions coming together and stopping work. The idea coming up is to stop work, stop school, and stop shopping. It's to shut the economy down. And these actions don't have a lot of effect if we do them in isolation or in a disorganized way. But that's part of why we're here today, so we can coordinate with each other. But the fact that Minneapolis, a lot of its leaders, a ton of organizations and unions have called for this. They've also called for a statewide strike as well, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to show up and show our solidarity with the workers and with the students and with the people of Minneapolis. And if that's you know, if that's all you can do, like you can also meet people, you can establish connections for when ICE might inevitably come to your city. And being connected puts you in a much less vulnerable position, I guess.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, my name is Mark, and I'm a student at Florida Atlantic University. And yeah, I'm a member of Socialist Alternative as well. Yeah, I think that was a great question. Why are we doing what we're doing? And I think the answer is that successful organizing requires like a series of escalating actions. If we were to say like let's all like revolution on Friday, like it just like wouldn't happen, right? So we start with like low hanging fruit. We start with like winnable goals. We start with like something that's like achievable, and like by starting with those things, we can like raise people's confidence, we can like raise people's expectations. And I think that these like low stakes events are like an opportunity to like draw attention and to like build momentum. And then after we've done something successful, we can draw in more supporters. We can show that like the way to create change is through collective action, and more people will want to join us. So then we can take bolder actions, and then again and again and again. So we don't start with like everybody go on an indefinite general strike and in a week. We know that nobody would actually come out, but instead the task is to like how do we like organize. So yeah, the best place to do that is like the places where we already are. So like let's start with our schools, the place where we have the most influence. And if we start with a walkout, maybe eventually we can build up to a strike in the not too distant future. If we could start talking to our teachers and the faculty that work at our school. And what if we were to walk out and strike at the same time? So that's like an example of like an escalation. So we're building towards bigger and bigger actions. But the fact that we're like coordinating across the country, I think makes it like more powerful than if we were to do them in isolation, like another comrade was saying. So yeah, I hope that helped answer part of your question.
I think January 23rd can be seen as like a test to see how many people are ready to strike and are ready to disrupt the status quo. And in like organizing terms, is usually called like a structure test. And we can see this as like a way to gauge how many people are on our side, how much of the masses are already engaged, and how much more do we need to build in order to reach like sustained mass non-cooperation. It also helps us with like keeping momentum as we keep building and we keep hitting the streets. We need to like be riding the momentum. So yeah.
My name's Addie. I use they, she pronouns. I'm a member of Socialist Alternative up in Milwaukee. I also helped plan a walkout at my high school before I joined Socialist Alternative. I am going to come in real quick to try to answer the question of like why walkouts specifically, and why we're sort of taking that up. On some level, a walkout is basically a strike, just like a strike of students instead of a strike primarily of workers. And in order to make this strike most successful, a strike is fundamentally like trying to shut down the profits of the businesses in order to gain things from those corporations. A walkout essentially serves the same purpose by aiming to shut down the school system and escalate organizing among students and workers. So when you're planning a walkout, some of the things you should consider are like, is there a teachers union at my school? And how can I get in contact with them? How can I get them involved? How can I try to get the teachers to walk out with us and actually shut down the school? How can we like connect with other community organizations? How can we like plan something beyond this? Can we maybe use the walkout as a tool to organize like another action or link up with like a strike that is going on in your city. The January 23rd stuff is super, super exciting, specifically for that reason. So yeah, I can stop there.
All right. Thanks for that. We've got Michaela, and then looks like I have Samir. I probably have time for one more person. We take half-baked thoughts, we take quarter-baked thoughts, whatever's best for you. We take questions. I think these past couple people coming in have said really good things, but I think a really important part is its ability to shut down business as usual. Students can do that well. Workers can really shut down the flow of profits. And that's really how we can, provide the basis for both like win demands, but also provide the basis for a whole new society, which is socialism. Sorry, that was a bit of a yappage.
Hi, yeah, I'm Samir. I'm a member of Socialist Alternative in Milwaukee. And I was planning to come in on that question about like what is the point of the walkout? I think like the people who spoke before me like motivated that really well. But there is a little more to add because like, yeah, when you go on a walkout or organize a protest, or as we're working towards these solidarity actions with the Minneapolis strike, like your audience isn't actually just like the ruling class. You're not just putting the ruling class on notice. You're also like spreading the idea of going on a general strike, to your own city, or if it's, if you're organizing a walkout, that could be inspiring walkouts, in other schools in your area. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about like, Milwaukee's already had a couple spontaneous student walkouts at a number of different high schools, which is really positive. But they could be improved even farther if like multiple schools were to walk out, at the same time and to coordinate. And I think this is something that's been brought up before in the conversation, but just to like sort of concretely talk about like what we're doing to make that happen. If you're like looking to connect with people at other schools in your area, or whether that's like students or teachers, like keep an eye out for like what other sort of protests and actions are going on, because there's a good opportunity to meet people. We attended like a local school board meeting where there was a number of students who were showing up to like protest against over policing in schools, and the people there were drawing out the very natural connection between like the over policing that's happening in schools and like the looming threat of ICE presence, just like contributing to like a really serious atmosphere of fear in the schools. And that was an opportunity. We met like people from 2 different local high schools as well as teachers. And yeah, like there are activist teachers that like will help to like mobilize their students to events or help motivate like joining a protest to them, so they can also like play a positive role in making a walkout happen.
Hi, I'm Clara. I'm from Sunrise Twin Cities McAllister Hub, from McAllister College in St. Paul, Minnesota. We were all on break the past month, so we were all watching like all these horrors from afar, while our city hub in Minneapolis that formed just this summer was doing some super amazing work with the Wide Awake protests, and was able to actually have some successes within Hilton and a lot of other really cool things. People in Minnesota have been organizing, especially UNIDOS, rapid response networks, on the ground since pretty much last spring. So we were lucky to early this fall run some resistance trainings in collaboration with UNIDOS to get our communities ready, and on signal chats and in rapid response groups to know how to properly observe ICE, which is definitely proven to be useful. And like, as you've already probably seen, like the community has been really great when it comes to like us supporting our neighbors. For this Friday, it's like, yeah, I think it's turning into a bigger thing than we all had expected, which is great. I came late from this call. I was previously on a call for, I believe it was the University Professors Union. There are about 200 students and professors from the state of Minnesota that were planning on striking. A bunch of local restaurants and grocery stores in my neighborhood will be closed. Most professors are emailing that they're canceling classes. For our hub specifically, we're planning on running an anti-ice observation training at 10 a.m. like in the morning, as well as we're doing this kind of call-in action where we like book. It's a whole strategy that Sunrise Twin Cities has been doing, but basically you can like book refundable.
You got 1 minute left, just so you know.
Oh, sorry. Book refundable reservations on hotels so that like it's booked out so ICE can't stay in them. So we're going to be doing that, and then we're also going to be doing an art build. Then McAllister at my school, we're doing a strike on campus, and then we're all going to the downtown Minneapolis protest. But yeah, I think it's going to be a big day in the cities on Friday, and I'm really excited. Yay.
Go ahead. Okay, so I actually just got a message and kind of freaking out because I don't know what to do about it. My friends have just informed me that they are thinking about counter-protesting us and bringing American flags. We had the idea of bringing more American flags and taking back the flag, but what do you think we should do? Because I just came across this and I'm not sure myself.
Leila, I have a random idea. So if we see anyone with an American flag, easy thing, we either A, kick them out, or we can B, embarrass them until they feel the need to leave.
I was thinking more something peaceful.
So I could jump on and kind of, I found that, so my experience, I attended some of the encampments while they were going on at Northwestern University on the north side of Chicago, Evanston really, and there were like counter protesters at those things, and I think that, you know, keeping each other safe and like being aware of your surroundings and that kind of stuff is always like the most important part. Like even if you are a small group, looking out for each other and knowing when it is to like get away so you're not in imminent danger is really important. But I found that like, you know, having really strong chants, like oftentimes we'll be like stand up, fight back, and like that kind of chant, it's very easy. It gets people going, it gets people loud. That's like and it also like brings like solidarity, you know, together in that moment.
Yeah, I feel like in our group, we talked about a lot of great things. Like, we talked about the rapid response efforts in Minneapolis that are going on right now, and how like taking like those defensive sorts of actions are like really important in suppressing like ICE and everything. But like what's really going to like kick out ICE of all of our cities is going to be like more offensive, like strike actions, walkouts, of course. Like, I would also like to say like, to the earlier point, like why really do we walk out? It's like, I feel like, you know, in New Haven specifically, like we organized a walkout that won nearly like with a bunch of different high schools from across the New Haven public schools when their funding was being cut. And we won like nearly half of their funding back from that. And, you know, I really feel like the students and like the youth layers specifically are usually like the first ones to be organized and radicalized and are really like play a role in pushing the masses into struggle. So yeah, and I also feel like, you know, we also talked about like, I guess a little bit of like the pessimism like people might have for like the time to organize for this walkout. But I really feel like, you know, the time kind of feels like now to be organizing for a lot of like my friends and a lot of people on campus. Like I've never felt such a, you know, such a revolutionary vibe in the air. So, and yeah, so I guess that's a little bit about what we talked about, but yeah.
We've talked a lot about like how walkouts have been successful historically, and also like how important it is that Minneapolis is going on strike on the 23rd. Like it has, even the generation of the 60s of all the hippies who were so radical, they didn't do a general strike. And like, that's something that is so many generations removed from us, and is like a really powerful tool of the working class. And it's like a massive escalation in our use of power. And I think like we should be really excited and see this as super like historical. And I think we also talked about like what sort of demands would work at our schools. My sister actually, she organized a walkout in LA at a high school where a student was detained by ICE. And it ended up like becoming like almost 1,000 people. It was huge. But when they were there, like the principal would come out and he would be like, and you have to stay on the sidewalk. And like if they got too close to like the curb of the school, it would technically be on school property. And he would be like, you have to stay on the sidewalk. And it's like, if our principals are really being that litigious about us walking out or like asking students to walk out, like we must be doing something right with a walkout, you know? And I think like the capitalist system is very invested in us, not realizing how much power we have as workers and students. And that's because if we knew how much power we had, this wouldn't be the system we lived in. And so a walkout helps visualize it. And it also shows workers like, we'll have your backs if you go on strike. We know how to do this. It's practice. Movements need to be built. They don't start massive. They start small and then they grow, and they don't grow at even rates. And they have, you know, speed bumps. And then they also have moments where they accelerate rapidly beyond when you like, and you feel like you're like in a million Zoom meetings and writing a million speeches and stuff, like me this week. And it's like things are happening really quickly, and it's really exciting. But these are like the sort of things that as like people who are thinking about politics and thinking about how we can make our schools and our workplaces better, that we need to be, you know, stepping up and planning for. I would really love if any of the people from the high school in Ohio, in Cincinnati, would want to stay back and be connected with some of our Cincinnati members who would, you know, maybe I bet they're also pretty busy right now, but I know they would love to talk to some high schoolers who are potentially interested in organizing a walkout. If you were interested in like getting more deep into political organizing, or if the ideas that socialist alternative members have been putting out feel like they're resonating with your political, you know, kind of where you're headed.